when you start looking for pond liner for your pond, there's a couple things you want to keep in mind. Number one, you want to make sure that the liner you get is fish safe. Now, most liners are going to mention that if they're sold in a pond store or on a pond website, the odds are they're going to be fish safe. But you want to check that out. Make sure that it says fish friendly or fish safe somewhere on the web page talking about that liner. There's been some unfortunate instances in the past where people have used liners that were treated with chemicals. Say, for example, they were for a roofing job, and liners are used sometimes as roofing in commercial projects. And if the liner's been treated with something that could be harmful to fish, you'll have an instant fish kill once you set up your pond. So check for that. Other things to keep in mind when you're looking for a liner is the thickness of the liner. And normally we recommend a 45 mil thick liner. Sometimes if you're using like an elastomeric liner, something that's really stretchy and it's made to instead of puncturing right away, it kind of gives, those can be a little bit less, but typically your best value is going to be in a 45 mil. They call them EDPM flexible liners. You can buy it by the roll or in a box. Now, if you're doing a very large pond, you're probably going to end up buying a roll. And that's pretty expensive because the shipping cost to get that roll from the factory to your home is freaking astronomical these days. It's very expensive. If you're doing a smaller pond, sometimes you can get away with a boxed liner. Now, we have box liners that are up to 20 by 20, and that's an advantage to you because those can normally be shipped to UPS, and UPS is a much more economical way to have your packages shipped to you versus a truck line. And the liner in a box is a good alternative if you don't need a special size. Some of the liners are 100 foot long, so if you're doing a monster pond, you're going to have to go with a roll. But check for boxes just in case, and don't just look at the purchase price, because the actual delivered to your door price may be, the box liner may appear more expensive until you look at shipping, and then you find out, wow, I saved a lot of money with that. Other things when you're looking at a liner to be aware of is underlayment. You can underlayment is kind of like a weed block that you would use in your garden if you're familiar with that. It's just something that you put down first before you put your actual liner on top of it to protect it from any roots, anything sharp that you might have missed. Now be sure you go through before you lay your liner and check for anything sharp. The last thing you want to do is put a brand new liner in and puncture it. In the past, we used to use old carpet, newspapers that we wet, anything like that. The underlayments are so much, they're so much cheaper by the time you go off and find, rolls of carpet or whatever you're going to use, instead, and they're much more, convenient. So I always recommend the underlayment. Other things when you're looking for a liner that you might want to be aware of, you'll see, things for like bottom drains, seaming and repair, and spray foam. Now those are used for around your edging, or if you're connecting, say you're doing a pretty wide pond, and you have two 25 foot wide liners that you need to seam together to make it 50. That's what you're going to overlay those and then run the seaming tape down them. It's not as scary as it appears. Bottom drains, that's another thing that kind of spooks folks. Last thing you want to do is you put in your pond and then you're going to cut a hole right in the bottom of it. It's like, oh my gosh. But that's a great way if you're using an external pump or any kind of a draw out to an external filter to have all the sediment and stuff that goes down to the bottom of your pond be sucked right into your filtration. So you definitely want to consider bottom drain. And the spray foam is normally used when you have your liner up in your waterfall and you're spray foaming in your rocks and all. Most times with waterfalls, when you first build one, you'll find you have just a tremendous amount of leaks. In fact, 90% of the time when I would go on site to work on a pond and it was leaking, I would find the problem in the waterfall. Algae builds up, somebody will walk up on it, dog will jump up on top of it, and it'll shift the rocks, and all of a sudden it's diverting water out of the back. And the spray foam helps keep your rocks in place on your liner and keeps that channel open and flowing down into your pond.